We're going to look at Restore Britain today. It's a political party that's literally, I mean, it's like an infant party. It's just been about, it actually was like um, a protest party, to expose government corruption and things. And it actually transformed into a political party just over a month ago. Since then, it's got over 120,000 members, which is more than the Conservative Party, who've been about over 100 years. It's historical how many members it's gained in such a short time. It's historical. The leader is Rupert Lowe, and he's genuinely, you can just tell he genuinely wants better for his country. He wants better for England and the United Kingdom. You can just tell that. So let's have a look. Let's get into a little bit about the party.
I have chosen to speak to you today from the farm because places like this represent what proper Britain is about. Hard work, responsibility, effort, duty, stewardship. This is the England I know, and this is the England that I love. On a farm, you don't think in election cycles or headlines or polling. You think in seasons. You think in generations, in what you leave behind to those who come after you. And that's why, here on the farm, I am now launching Restore Britain as a national political party. I'm now going to dedicate...
And you know what? This is a key point. This is a key point. He's saying, without saying it, he runs a farm. He's been a farmer. A long-standing British tradition. He's ran a farm for years, for decades. Yeah, but more than the farm, it's a business. So he understands how business works. He runs a successful business. He understands how, everything from business rates to taxes to, dealing with HMRC. He understands how it all works. Yeah, so he understands, he's on the ground, he understands issues that need changing, that need reforming to help businesses, to not penalise businesses and make it harder for them to make money, taking more money off them in all these new taxes. They invent a new tax every other week, it feels like, whereas the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, but definitely this Labour Party we've got in at the moment, if you look at them, none of them have ran a business. None of them have ran any form of business. So a business almost, if you look at it as the business, it could be a small business. You look at business as its own mini economy, right? If you can run that successfully, then that's a start in how to run a country, because a country is just a business. It's just on a massive scale. But if you can run a pretty successful, decent sized business, then you've kind of, you understand a lot better than people that have never ran a business. I'll just give you an example. Our Chancellor, the person in charge of all the country's finances, she put on her CV that she was an economist for the Bank of England, which would definitely be, mean what you're doing. Would mean, as Chancellor, you've got some background in that, which is good. That's a good thing. So, you're competent. You understand the world you're working in. As it turns out, she lied on her CV. She wasn't an economist for the Bank of England. I believe she was like almost the equivalent to, she worked on the tills in the banks. I might be over-exaggerating that a little bit, but it wasn't far off that she was almost like a cashier. That was her level of experience. A cashier. They nickname her in this country Rachel from accounts. Her name's Rachel Reeves, Chancellor Rachel Reeves, and she's called Rachel from accounts. because it's just a joke. So she lied on her CV. She didn't get sacked, by the way, and she's incompetent. And I'm not going to go through all the different government members, but they're all of that same ilk. They all have got no clue how business works, how the real world works, and these people are running the country. That's why the country is in the state it's in. This guy, Rupert Lowe, understands because he's been there. He is there now. He still runs a farm.
Dedicate my life to finding, organising, funding and providing hundreds of qualified candidates to present to the British people at the next general election. This process has already started, with invitations being issued to patriots in aligned political parties, Reform, the Conservatives, the SDP, Advance, and more. In local politics, we will work in partnership with localised political parties, such as Great Yarmouth First, that have the best interests of their residents at heart, combining our forces at the next general election. The men and women standing for Restore in that election will not be politicians.
Yes.
I promise you that.
That's the problem.
They will not be failed ministers. They will not.
That's the problem. The government and, you know, the governments that are trying to get into power, you know, the opposition governments, they're all like career politicians. They all come into it maybe worth a few $100,000, and within a few years they're worth millions. They're all career politicians, and it's a business to them. They've got no love, you know, no love of the game. They've got love of the money, and they understand what being a politician can do for your finances.
Not be tainted by failures of the past. They will be from business, from the military, from
businessmen,
science, from medicine.
That's
from
what you need.
Education, from industry.
Like I said, the country's one big business.
Real communities,
successful businessmen.
Every single one.
That's what you need.
Will be from well outside the existing political
Good.
establishment.
Good.
And every single one will understand the difficult decisions that need to be taken.
Good.
Because there are no easy fixes. I'm not going to tell you comforting lies about the condition of our country. I have only ever been honest with the British people, and I will be straight with you now. What is necessary will be incredible.
And he backs up his words. He backs up his words. I'll give you an example. The grooming gangs in this country, you know, everyone knows, even in America now, Elon Musk brought it to the attention of the Americans. So you understand how bad this grooming gang situation is. The Labour Party, the current government, voted for no inquiry into historic grooming gangs and into current grooming gangs. No inquiries. They're not interested. So Reform, this is Restore Party, Reform, who are leading, who are expected to be the next government at the moment, led by Nigel Farage. Reform said early last year that if the government won't do a national inquiry, they're going to crowdfund and pay for national inquiry, and they're going to get it done. Okay, that fizzled out. That just went away. The government's doing some pretend inquiry. They're pretending they're doing something because there was a lot of pressure put on them. The fact they voted against it, but they've done everything they can to destroy that, and we haven't even heard about it. Rupert Lowe said he was going to do the same, crowdfund and do a national inquiry into the grooming gangs. He's currently doing that. He crowdfunded, he got the money for it, and then he's doing an inquiry at the moment. He's released some of the details, and it's horrific. It is horrific, some of the stuff that's coming out. And there's politicians involved, there's police involved, there's, you know, obviously grooming gang members, organised grooming gang members up and down the country. And there's estimated to be, you know, in the hundreds of thousands of victims. I mean, you're going back 20, 30 years, but hundreds of thousands of victims, predominantly young white girls. This man stood by his word. Now, show me most politicians that'll do that now.
Incredibly painful. But for the first time in a very long time, voters will have a genuine alternative which is truthful with them about the scale of what now has to be done. The first priority is to control who comes to our country, and more importantly, who stays in our country. Restore Britain will not just stop mass immigration, we will reverse it. Every single illegal migrant will be securely detained and then deported. The message will be unrelenting. If you are in this country without our permission, you will be removed. For the foreseeable future, far more people must leave Britain than arrive. If a foreign national is unable to speak English, lives in social housing, claims benefits, refuses to work, fails to integrate, commits crime, or even actively hates our way of life and wishes to do us harm, then they must leave or be made to leave.
Yep, simple.
Restore Britain.
Simple. And I'll tell you something. If you go to the big cities in England, London, Birmingham, Manchester, I was saying this to someone just the other day. It's literally, it doesn't matter if you go in takeaway, and I'm not just talking about takeaways, you know, that are foreign owned or foreign cuisine. I'm talking about chain restaurants. I'm talking about Pizza Hut. I'm talking about KFC. I'm talking about, you know, Burger Kings, McDonald's, you know, big chain restaurants. When you go into them now and get served, if there's an issue, say there's an issue with your order, say they gave you the wrong food, or, you know, you're trying to, you know, you want some sauce with it, whatever it is, you know, rather than just order, pay, go, there's something else you need. Trying to explain it to most of the servers is near impossible. And I'll tell you why. Because most people serving you in these places now are foreign. And it's not, you know, it's not some far right, you know, it should be white English serving you in these places. But the issue, I don't care. I grew up multicultural. I said this before, I grew up with 90% black friends. Some of my closest friends that are like family, Muslim Asian guys. So this isn't anything about racism. You know, what I'm talking about though is they can't speak English. You know, they can't speak English, and they can't understand what you're saying, and you can't understand what they're saying because they don't speak proper English. It's broken, and you know, you almost I'm not exaggerating to you now. If there's an issue in a takeaway, large franchise takeaways, it's almost like you need a translator now, and that's everywhere. Birmingham, London, doesn't matter which part of these cities you go to, it is in most parts of the cities, and it's just another piece of the puzzle. It just gives you, you know, that feeling of, you know, England isn't England anymore. You know, it's worrying.
Britain will make our communities safe again for women and children. That I promise you.
Good.
If that means millions go, then millions go.
Yep.
We're constantly told that the economy needs vast swathes of low-skilled migrants.
What a load of crap.
We know that's simply not true.
That's just a load of crap, especially now. That's just a load of crap. AI, what do they keep telling us? AI is going to replace a lot of jobs. You know, customer service jobs. You know, a lot of jobs are going to be replaced by AI. You know, a lot of jobs. It's already started with this work from home. The next step on similar jobs, on a lot of jobs that are work from home, will be AI taking over. You know, so why do we suddenly need all these, you know, these low IQ idiots that, you know, and most of them don't come here to work. They come here to get on benefit, and a lot of them get on the benefit and then work cash in hand jobs or work on fake IDs on Uber deliveries, and you know, it's just a piss take.
What we need is to get millions of healthy Brits back into work. A radical overhaul of how welfare is delivered. protecting those in genuine need, but not funding healthy shirkers
Yep.
to live off the back of hard-working men and women. If you can work, you must work. It really is that simple.
And you know what? You'll feel better for it. You'll feel better for it. You know, trust me. There's a lot of people that, you know, are trying to get away with it. They feel like if they can claim enough benefits to live okay, not to live well, but just to survive. Yeah, so they don't have to work. They feel like they're getting one over or they're winning. I'm talking about, you know, native English people. And that's not the case. Because, you know, getting out there, working, meeting people, networking, you know, there's opportunities, you know, you can do something, you know. It's just like if you're sitting in your house claiming your benefits, you know, seeing the same few people every day when you go to the same, you know, down to the local shop or, you know, just the local gym or back or whatever it is, you know, you're just not getting a lot out of life. And especially as men I'm talking to here, you know, going out, working, earning your own money and being a man, being able to take care of your family, being able to take care of your loved ones, you know, earning your own money. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be earning some massive wage. But just getting out there and doing something, you'll feel a lot better.
Restore Britain will be abundantly clear. If you consistently refuse work, then you will lose your benefits.
Yeah, and then you've got to work.
We will punish indolence, and more importantly, we will reward success. We will provide vast economic incentives for men and women to start businesses, generate opportunities,
not like Labour,
build wealth, and create self-sufficient families. Standing here today on the farm, I know exactly what it means to deal with energy bills, labour shortages, regulation, unproductive paperwork, planning restrictions, tax.
Energy bills are ridiculous. I mean, for domestic energy bills for us have gone up like ridiculous. Since COVID, they've just like, it's like the average gas and electric bill in a year would be previous, I don't know, say a highish bill might have been £2,000 for the whole year. Now a highish bill is about £4,500. You know, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And businesses have been killed. I'll give you an example. I've seen the paper, care home. Now their gas and electric bills they have to pay in advance as well because they're a business. They can't pay like, you know, domestic, you use it and pay it. They have to pay in advance. Their gas and electric bill for 1 year, their average was about 800,000. It jumped to, I'm not saying over a few years, I'm saying 1 year it was 800,000. A few years ago, the bills just jumped sky high. It went from 800,000 a year to 2.1 million. 2.1 million. That's almost 3 times their usual bill. This country just doesn't want you to earn anything. It wants, if you do have a business, a successful business, they want to take every penny off you. They want every penny off you. And if the business closes, they want you on benefits. They want you reliant on the state because Keir Starmer and his government are basically, they're socialists. No, sorry, they're communists masquerading as socialists. That's the truth. They want everyone reliant on the state. They've already turned the country into a shithole. You know, it's you can see communism taking over England because you can see the state of the country. Go and look at Cuba, for an example. Cuba in the 30s was lovely, thriving. Go and look at Cuba now. Third world country, shithole. That's what they want this to be, England.
An endless uncertainty. The state has definitively become the enemy of the people. Restore Britain will burn away suffocating taxes on work and enterprise. We will slash unnecessary regulation. We will dismantle bloated quangos and the overbearing HR culture. We must...
Yeah, this HR, that's... You know, I understand you've got to have some kind of like, you know, policing in a big business. But this HR thing is out of control. It's just out of control, you know. And there's no other way to say it. This is a product of feminism. You know, it's a product of feminism because, you know, women love to complain. Women love to get people in trouble. You know, that's a feminist trait. Whereas men will deal with the problem with that person. You know, right or wrong, a man, if he's got a problem with someone, will take it to his face. You know, but I'm talking about proper men. There's a lot of feminist men now, feminine men, that will go behind your back. But men in general, and especially, you know, generations previous, will take it to your face, will come to your face if there's a problem. You know, and you didn't have all this HR. HR came about because when women flooded the workplace, they've got so many complaints, they've got so many grievances because they've always got a problem with something, that they needed to create a HR department to deal with it all. And then that has just mutated now into, like, you know, it's just like crazy. Just ridiculous.
Must crush parasitic Britain.
Yep.
We will restore long-term, stable, logical policy so that businesses can plan and invest and grow again. But Restore Britain is about much more than numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about who we are as a nation and who we are as a people. Britain is not just an economy. Britain is not just an idea. Britain is not just a passport. Britain is a nation. Britain is a people, our people. And Restore Britain will never allow that to be erased. We will celebrate our Christian heritage and the identity that built and shaped this country. Responsibility, restraint, forgiveness, duty, and fairness. In short, a high-trust society. That will mean defending our culture. That will mean resisting the relentless creep of radical Islam. That will mean banning the burqa, outlawing Sharia law, blocking cousin marriages, and reimposing our Christian-based rule of law. A Restore Britain government would legislate to ensure that no...
Yeah, it's simple. I mean, we, you know, like I said, I've got some really, really close, they're a lot of family. I've got a couple of friends that I know a lot of Asian Muslim guys a lot, and they're good guys. And I've got a couple that are like family to me, you know, and, you know, even so, yeah, they're not by any means radical or anything. Their faith is Muslim, and they're good guys. But, you know, there is an element in this country, growing element of this radical Islam, that is just always trying to push just a little bit more right, a little bit more of their culture, a little bit more. It's pushing until one day you don't realize that they've pushed you to the edge, and they just push you off. You know, we don't go. You know, we wouldn't go to say Dubai and tell them, right, you need to have more Christian values. You need to do more, you know, Christian type. You need to adopt our Christian ways. They tell you to piss off. They would literally. They just give out years and years in prison for nothing. So they'll probably just throw you in prison, and you know, you'll probably be found with a broken hip in the shower. You know what I mean? So, you know, why do people think, especially these lefties in this country, white liberal lefties, why do they think it's okay to let other people and other cultures come in and bully us?
Halal or kosher slaughter on British soil. This is Britain, and we will do things our way. This political party now exists for one reason: to restore Britain, to make it a better, safer, and more prosperous place for British men and women to raise their families. It will be difficult and it will be painful, but I assure you, it is possible. I hope you will consider joining me on this journey and becoming a member of our party. It is our country, it is now our collective responsibility to act. Together, we will restore Britain. Thank you.
So that's Rupert Lowe and Restore Britain. He was this is when, as I say, the party actually officially became a political party. He announced, this was how he announced it. And yeah, I mean, like I say, it's a short amount of time. It's just over a month, I think, now. And they're growing like exponentially. They are growing exponentially. They are really gaining members. And I believe even, I know there's probably Americans who watch this. A lot of this is aimed at Americans that watch this, because a lot of British that are awake already know about reform inside and out. And a lot more British, a lot more mainstream are getting to know about reform and realising, this could be a good thing. But this is aimed at Americans, so you can understand a little bit more of, there is still hope for us, basically, and it is Restore Britain. See, a lot of these pink-haired, fat lefties thought that reform, who Nigel Farage is the leader of, they thought reform was the boogeyman. They thought reform was the far-right party that is going to come in and do mass deportations, and he's going to, they thought it's a racist far-right party, basically. They didn't realise, Nigel Farage and reform are just the same wet liberals that the Conservative Party were, and Labour Party are, the Lib Dems, the Greens. They're all wet liberals, all of them. Like the Conservative Party, who are supposed to be right-leaning, present themselves as such, but they're just wet liberals when it comes down to it. They're just the same. Boris Johnson, who was a Prime Minister a few years ago, there was more mass importations of migrants, refugees, illegals, all of it, under him than there had been for years. So they're all the same. Rupert Lowe and Restore are, genuinely a right party, and not far right, not racist. Because once these pink-haired lefties get onto this, once it starts to become, once they realise Restore's coming, they're going to be in meltdown, and they're going to throw out all the Nazis, the racist, all the, the isms, and all the buzzwords are going to come out. But it's not going to work with Restore, because they're not listening. Rupert Lowe doesn't care. Nigel Farage cares about labels. When they started labelling Nigel Farage as racist, he tried to defend himself. He tried to fight back against it. That's the mistake he made, because that's what these lefties, you validate their opinions. Restore isn't interested in validating their opinions. He says, I don't care. Call me a racist. I don't care. He says he doesn't care. And this is where it needs to go. This is where it's come to. Because the left, they love throwing out their opinions, but they don't like to listen to anyone else's opinions. If you're not in line with their opinions, your opinion's shit. Doesn't matter. So this is what you get then. You'll just get, a party like Restore, someone like Rupert Lowe. It doesn't care about your isms and your buzzwords. They'll just keep marching on, and they keep going forward. And the problem with that is, once the liberals and the lefties aren't listened to, they've got no power. You literally take the power away. As soon as you don't care what name they call you, it doesn't affect you, and you still are growing, and you're still moving forward, and you're still doing what you said you're going to do, they just disappear. They've got no power. You just take all their power away from them. They just disappear, and that's it. That's it. And, I can't wait for it. I can't wait for it. It needs to happen. It needs to happen, because this country is going to shit. It needs to happen. And like I say, I've got friends, good friends that are like family, Asian Muslim guys. Got a lot of black friends that I grew up with since a child. I've got mixed race relatives in my family. I'm not going to say who and how, but very close in my family. So the last thing you can call me is a racist. You can call it me, I don't care. But it's doesn't mean anything, because I know that it's just, you know, it's just the thing the left try and do. They try and throw words out, so you crumble and bend the knee, and then they've got the moral high ground. Don't give them the moral high ground. Tell them to piss off, or just ignore them. Even better, just ignore them. So yeah, this is Restore Britain. I'm gonna get some videos up. I'm gonna put a compilation together, and I'm gonna react to some videos of Rupert Lowe himself in action. You know, I'll try and find some footage, if there is some, of him doing that grooming gang inquiry that he's currently doing. And I'll just try and find, just so you get a sense of the man. That's more a sense of his party and where they're going. But it's good to get a sense of the man. I mean, you could get a sense from that. But do you know what I mean? Actually see him in action. Anyone can talk a good game, but seeing him in action, you know, he's a dog with a bone. He's a dog with a bone. He's a British bulldog. That's the best way to put it. He's a British bulldog, and that's what we need now. That's what we need. So yeah, I hope you like this one, guys. You know, the usual. Subscribe. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure. Okay. Like. Comment. You know, some comments from Americans would be great on this one. You know, anything I can answer for you, I'll try and answer. You know, I'll always try and reply to comments. And yeah, like I say, I'm going to do some more Rupert Lowe stuff. And I'll see you on the next one.